Okay, so just a short little update for this weekend. There will be no videos on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. It's Christmas weekend, and I think this is pretty standard for most people. No one wants to do anything, and that's that. So let's get right into the video. Okay, hello, welcome. So this is going to be the final discussion about Avatar: The Way of Water. I've watched the movie 3 times now. I think I've pretty firmly supplanted my thoughts on this movie, on this franchise so far. We're gonna disregard things that James Cameron has been saying and doing in the past few days since I've watched this movie. He's been doing some weird shit. Well, fuck, we don't care about that for now. We're gonna take the movie out by its own merits. And intrinsically, we're gonna be talking about the first film for a little bit. It's unavoidable. And we're gonna go from there. So let's just go from there. So we all know the first film, it's highly overrated. But I don't want to make the same mistake that people did back then in 2009. I made the same mistake myself watching that film, but I was much younger then. It was highly overrated. We know this. This is probably universally accepted that yes, the first Avatar, it's highly overrated. It's a Pocahontas ripoff. It has no real substance within that film other than its, amazing, brilliant new CGI technology. Now, that all that stuff is sort of transferred into the Avatar 2, especially you want to say especially the CGI. It's the same remarkable CGI that we've seen from the first film. We can get that out of the way. It's good to have that, but after a decade of working on the film, and how much whatever amount of money they spent working on the film, of course it's gonna have amazing CGI, no doubt. So no doubt in your minds, obviously that would be a thing. So let's get rid of that. If we want to compare, and we have to, the first film to the second film, I actually still enjoy the second film a lot more than the first one, even though a lot of the things from the first movie transfer into the second film, like the ham-fisted messaging and the parallels between American history, being married onto the world of Pandora. Just some really stupid shit that didn't need to be in the film. Also, the insane runtime that's really shouldn't be 3 hours long. It should probably be cut down to two. There's a lot of things that are wrong with the second movie. But there's a lot of things I like. So I'll talk about the things I like. The subplots with the kids, I really enjoyed that. If I was gonna compare the characterization from Jake's kid, Jake Sully's kids to his relationship with Neytiri in the first movie, these kids blow it out of the water. It's not as bland as the first movie. There's something there. I like the family-oriented aspects of this film, and I think it's a great addition to the franchise, and it really brings home together that this is a real family, and they're connected in a lot of ways, and they love each other, and we're shown that throughout the film, throughout the entire film. So we're really getting to know these characters, and it's done generally well, far better than the relationship Jake had with Neytiri in the first film. And I can see that relationship sort of be building in this, but there's also this movie is more focused on the kids and what they're up to. So it's some generational thing. But Jake and Neytiri have a role to play in Avatar 2. Obviously they're protect their parents now, and they have to look out for their children more so than even their own clan. Which we're gonna come to maybe my first weird part in the second act of this film is probably the most boring part of this film. We can say that because we just throw away the Forest Clan. We just forego them. We just get rid of them in the second act. We don't care about them anymore, and we just transfer to more world building. But what's this world building actually accomplishing, right? Because I think it's fine. It's actually even though this part of the film is the most boring, it's the most interesting at the same time because the kids are there. We're focusing a lot on these kids during this hour and a half of the second act where we're figuring out like what these kids are up to, what are they about. We're really it's a lot of characterization, plus the world building of finding out what these clans do and how they operate. Maybe the next movie will have like what is it, like sand clans. We'll go into the desert and we'll find the desert Navi, right? Or found the mountain Navi. What's next? It's essentially the same as the first movie. Instead of it being part of the forest, now we're just doing the water. And it's almost redundant because you don't want to throw away the forest. And it seems in this movie, we just literally forget about the forest people. We don't know what they're doing. We didn't know if they're still fighting the humans. We don't. We do know who's in charge, but he's not like a main character. We don't get any like real scenes with him. We just literally forget about them. We forget about the scientists that are there. We have no idea what they're up to. You can assume whatever you want. It's just hard for me to accept that like Jake and Natiri would literally leave the forest people, and only because they think that Spider would rat on them and rat the location of the Force Navi. But they don't bring all of the Force Navi. They only leave themselves. It just doesn't make sense. Why, and then at the end of the movie, oh, now they're back on the war. Now they want to, fight the humans for real again. And yeah, it just doesn't make sense. I understand though that like Jake would want to leave because he knows he's being specifically targeted by the Colonel. But the humans are still gunning for the resources that the Navi possess, or they're on top of. They want to get rid of the Navi. So why leave? What does Jake really accomplish by leaving with his family? It doesn't seem like he's accomplishing a whole lot because at the end of the movie, it's just a roundabout way of fighting the humans again. What's the point? And that brings us to, the hour and a half long fucking more extra world building upon, the Sea clans. I enjoyed it, but it just doesn't make sense. And we got to talk about the Colonel, how he did die in in the first film, and since they had no major villain, it seems they had to bring him back because he was the only interesting villain they had. So they created this way. It's like, oh, and this is fucking real stupid. They created this way to basically infinitely create, clones. They can do this now. They can infinitely. We don't know exactly how many resources it takes to create a Navi clone that you can implant your memories inside. But essentially, it's like Altered Carbon. If you've seen Altered Carbon, they have the stacks. They implant into their nerves and nervous system in their necks or their spine, and now with those stacks, all their memories get transferred and recorded into them. So if you die and if your stack isn't destroyed, well, you can put your stack into another person, or a sleeve as they call it, and now you're still that same person. Essentially, that's what we have now. And as far as we know, the humans can infinitely create different avatar bodies that are younger and stronger than they were, creating these essentially clones of yourselves with the memories of yourselves from your past, essentially making that person you. Okay, we don't. Uh, if you listen, we have in the first movie we had the clones, right? But before then it was just we weren't like actually transferring your memories into that body. It was more. It wasn't really explained well in that movie, but like, you go into the pod, and then the pod sort of lets you be able to control, sort of like a surrogate. Sorry, I'm dumb. Literally Avatar. Literally an avatar. Now it's just your memories are inside the avatar now. So again, essentially, the humans have created an immortality device. They can just keep making these avatars as long as they have the money and resources. Which why wouldn't they? If they can literally like make an entire city, if they can go into space, get into Pandora, and make a giant city within like a year, why wouldn't they have the resources to create like infinite avatar soldiers that you can just like keep respawning in if you die? That's a problem. I don't like that. I'm okay with the Colonel coming back if they wanted to do that, but then they sort of created this problem now that you can just keep memory sticking soldiers. So all the like Colonel's men that die during the end of this movie, well, they can just make more avatar bodies for them, and then they can come back. How are the Navi supposed to win? with infinite soldiers. All right, and now these infinite soldiers are sort of made redundant in a way because we find out that the humans in this year time span that they've been on Pandora doing shit that we don't really know about. It's not explained well. They've been hunting whales. They've been hunting whale goo. And this whale goo, very vaguely explained, that is said to completely stop aging. Just apparently it just makes you immortal. Not they didn't say immortal that you can get shot and you'll still be alive. No, you get shot, you die, but it stops aging entirely. Why? You already introduced infinite cloning. It's already another sense of immortality. Why do you need to add another one? And why does it have to be under the guise of humans hunting whales like back in the 1700s when the settlers of Nantucket were hunting whales for their oil? Like, we get it, right? This brings me along to like a lot of other ham-fisted messaging that is transferred from the first movie to this movie. That yes, we get it. Humans are bad. Humans are greedy. Humans are selfish. They're gonna take your resources. We're gonna take all your money. We're gonna take everything you want and have, and we're gonna corrupt it and destroy it and corrupt it is the best word. We're gonna corrupt it, and it's ours now, right? It's ours. Science bad. People bad, nature good, and I'm aggravated. It's like, it doesn't have to be so ham-fisted, right? Like, we get it. I understand context clues. I understand what you're trying to do. You don't need to create this weird immortality goo that we hunt whales for, right? It's just not. You could just say and then literally leave all the other parts of the whale. You just want the immortality goo? Okay. Just like make it like the human. We already understand that the humans are bad because they're here. We killing the natives, like the Manifest Destiny concept that we all know from back when the settlers of America did to the Native Indians. We know this. It's not really nuanced in any way. It's not new. We get it. So that aggravates me. It does. It does aggravate me, and that's a huge problem. The immortality goo, yellow whale cum that turns you immortal. It's just why? Why did we need that? Did we? Does this? What purpose does that serve? We already know, because in the beginning of the movie, we already know that the humans they just want to be on Pandora anyway because the Earth is dying. So they didn't need this. The immortality goo doesn't actually assist the humans in taking over Pandora. I guess technically it might if you give all your soldiers, this, goo so they don't die. We don't know how the mechanics of this goo even works really. It's not explained. We don't know like how do you like do they synthesize the goo with like other chemicals and compounds to create the immortality elixir? We don't know. It's just they're there for the goo. It's like why put it here? We don't need it. It doesn't need to be here in the film. So that aggravates me quite a bit. I'm not happy with that. Spider has this like whole weird thing. I like Spider a lot initially, and I like his sort of rundown with the Colonel. Like, this isn't his father technically. Jake is really his father, but Spider himself is still connected to the Colonel, and he doesn't want to see his father get hurt. So I sort of liked that he actually saved the Colonel, but in another sense, I understand why they saved the Colonel because they're not just gonna kill him in the second movie again, because that would be retarded, right? So they have to create a reason for why Spider would save him. Yet Spider's just not on the Colonel's team, so he saved him. Which is there's some like there's this weird like revolving door, right? It's like it's like going in circles now. I believe that's gonna be in for the future. I hope not. I want Spider to like have actual conflict with his father if that's gonna happen in the future, which I assume it will at some point. I also I did like the absolute balls on Natiri to just like well, this is sort of weird for Spider as well. Like how he literally like Natiri threatened to kill Spider, and she was gonna do it. Like, I don't think that was a bluff. The Colonel believed himself. The Colonel believed that Neytiri would kill Spider. So that's like whoa, and there's characterization there for the Colonel. Like, he's not just a super heartless, machine. Now he has a son, and Spider. There was no hints about him in the first movie, so he's sort of ham-fisted in that sense. But now he's here now, so we have to deal with him. So I like that aspect. Like, oh, the Colonel has some shred of humanity. He doesn't want to see his son die, even though he's technically not in his human body anymore. And if, like, there's the question, is he really the Colonel, or is he just, the memories culminated into the Avatar body? I like that aspects of it. I like the aspects that Neytiri was willing to kill Spider, even though she's known him for literally his entire life, and help bring him up with his kids. Um, but then, after saving the Colonel, it's a little weird that Spider would just come back to Jake's family after what Neytiri did. Maybe Spider thought that, oh, she's bluffing. I think. After she just, like, witnessed her son dying, and Spider witnessed it too. So that's a bit weird. But that relationship will be built upon in the third movie. Probably not, honestly. There are things, to be criticized. There are things to criticize in this movie, a lot of things, just like the first one. And I think the main problem is, people are gonna see this movie as being just as bland. Well, it's not a problem because I sort of agree with them. There's large portions of this movie where it drags, and it's really just that second act until we get to the third act where it's like all action. So I can understand if people are not, like, super happy about this movie. I totally understand that. But in my respect, where I'm coming from, I somehow still enjoyed it more than the first one, and I think it's maybe that slightly more original script than just Pocahontas. That slight originalness in the script has a very slight edge above the first movie, and I do enjoy the world building of this world. It is interesting, even though I still don't understand the evolutionary process of the planet, and apparently the planet is alive like Ego from Marvel, and it's very confusing. It's very vague. It's not well thought out. Kiri herself, as an individual, like, sort of the chosen one of Pandora, maybe able to control anything with her halo. So it's we're even though I like Kiri's character as, like, the daughter of Grace's avatar, even though we have no idea how her birth is, we should probably talk about Kiri. Her birth is completely brushed past. She was just born from Grace's avatar. We don't know the father. Literally, she's Anakin from Star Wars. The comparison there, I don't think is a stretch. I think that's pretty apparent within the storytelling. So, it's because they're keeping it vague. I think we're gonna really find out sooner rather than later, probably in the third movie. We're gonna, like, find out more about the actual planet Pandora and its, like, purpose, and how to. I believe that the planet itself is alive and is somehow creating, literally like a god, creating these creatures, and the Navi, and the Navi are just his chosen creature. Yeah, that's just a weird theory I have. It's not really substantiated in anything. I'm spitballing because Kiri is just a weird existence within the movie, and that's all they give us. So I kind of have to spitball, but I'm not really super interested. I was more interested in the family dynamic of our characters, and being brought together, through this tragic event of the older brother dying now, and they're gonna go from there. So on the whole, through this entire discussion, I believe this movie is still better than the first. I wouldn't say that's a big bar, though, because I would give the first movie maybe a 4 to a 5. I did watch it recently. I did watch it before I went to the theater the first time. And yeah, it's about a 4 or 5. Very bland, nothing substantive. There's a lot of characterization, a lot more characterization in the second movie, and that's a good thing. I like that, and I like the family dynamic. And because of that, the relationships between these characters that are being more that are fleshed out a little bit more than they were in the first movie. This movie is slightly more enjoyable. So I think my final verdict, I would give this film like a 6 or a 6.5, a 6 to a 7, around there. If you want to go lower or higher, I think that's okay. I would not go higher than a 7 because of the weird whale goo and just the infinite cloning now and the existence of Kiri or Kiri, whatever her name is, and those because those are like actual major problems. But the movie is definitely more enjoyable to watch than the first one. So I'm gonna give it around a 6 to a 7. That's what I feel this movie deserves. It could go lower, it could go higher. Probably, you could probably make some arguments that might make me think that, oh, maybe you're right. Maybe this does drag the movie down just a little bit more towards the first one's level. And I think that's it. This movie, I thought it was gonna do way better. Apparently, it's doing much worse than it was predicted to do. And I didn't want to talk about the James Cameron stuff, but I'll just mention it a little bit here at the end because people probably won't watch the end of the video. James Cameron's been going fucking nuts apparently, like flipping people off, saying really weird shit about toxic masculinity. Uh, you know, he must be under a lot of pressure only because the movie's not being projected as doing as well as it should be, which is weird. Because my theaters were packed all 3 times I went to the theater. They were fucking packed. Uh, Maybe it was just my area. People like wanted to see the movie. I don't know, but that's crazy, guys. I thought this movie would do a whole lot better. It's looking like it might not hit a billion, but it probably will eventually in like, a month after they do like a few more re-releases or however long it takes. They'll try and make that money back, and they'll do that because it's Disney, and they like money, so that's their main goal. Anyway, I think that's it. I'm done discussing this movie. 6 to 7 out of 10. I feel like that's fair. Hope you guys enjoy. Have a nice day. See ya.